Welcome to the Awakening Podcast. You can find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. Another live stream episode of Another Perspective. We're on Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook. I won't be able to see the comments because I'm actually on the Zoom call and it's going live. But if there's comments, we'll go in and read them later and we'll respond to them. Hi, Arnold. How are you this week?
Good morning. I'm doing much better than at the beginning of the week, so I'm happy about that.
Okay, so that's always a positive thing. So I suppose let's start with the picture before we go into what we're going to discuss this week.
Yeah, when I look outside, it's like maybe it's gonna rain, and the picture shows that there's rain, and there's one guy in a suit with 5 umbrellas, and another guy who has no umbrella and who's in the middle of the rain, and the text says it's not the needy who are a problem in this world, it's the greedy. And I think that is a main thing. I just realized that there's a quote attributed to Gandhi, and Gandhi said there's enough in this world for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. And another thing I would like to add is that there was a couple of years ago a member of the American team in the climate change conference. And since then, I think the guy has been removed. But he thought is that actually the main problem with climate change. Well, you can talk whether it's a hoax or not, but let's talk about pollution. And he said, it's not a climate thing. It's a greed problem. So I think we really should be focusing more on reducing greed. I think then we solve a lot of problems in this world.
And even if you look at the military complex, is it 2% or 4% if the money that's spent for that would solve all the hunger problems? I mean, there's billions that are living on the breadline. Nobody should be this day and age. So we're going to tell you what we're going to discuss this week. As always, news, Canada's climate lockdown. So he just mentioned whether it's a hoax or not, but so we're going to touch on that one. Mass fatality capability, Romania elections, council beats government to house asylum seekers, Venezuela, and US war. AI, ChatGPT 5, medical reasoning. Google just launched Mangle, the most powerful AI reasoning language, and chatbot tricks users. Good news, Caravan. StackBurger, VR that provides pain relief, and handover toy shop to staff. Health, Illinois mandatory mental health screening, Aspartame Dangers, and Go-Nuts. Inspiration, predicting Eureka, start and listening to podcasts, Frog in the Well. Oh, Canada, what's happening there, Arnold?
Yeah, and it's not even being planned. I think it's happening as we speak. There is in Nova Scotia, which is I don't know whether it's a region or a province in Canada. Well, I assume it's just as big as our countries together, but it's a huge area, and what they're saying is they're witnessing the first experimental climate lockdown in North America. So what they have said in Nova Scotia, so in this region in Canada, they've said there is a 10-week travel and forest access ban enforced by fines. And if you get fined, it's almost $29,000 for stepping into the woods. So you're not allowed to travel in the woods. You're not allowed access into the wood. It's all, so you cannot walk your dog, you cannot hike, you cannot fish, you cannot even pick berries, all under the guise of fire risk. Even as rain falls and fire conditions change, no, it's still the lockdown. So what a former conservation officer and fireman says is this isn't fire safety, it's fear-driven tyranny. This is not proportionally, it's not rationally, this is psychological warfare, and this is how totalitarianism takes hold. And it's not only limited to Nova Scotia. There are other regions in Canada like New Brunswick and Newfoundland. They are planned that they are to follow, and their fines are up to $150,000 and 6 months in jail. If you just go walk in the park, it's like walk in the forest. So it's like totally incredible. And this is happening now. So folks who live in Nova Scotia, they cannot say it's Sunday, let's go out with the family and walk and have a picnic in the forest. No, you're not allowed.
Well, I'd heard about the plan for a climate lockdown, but I think they usually do this as a test, see how society responds to it. And if they kind of just bow down and say, accept this, what I would say is check your sovereignty. But you can see it's all about the money. Like, I mean, if you saw a movie about this, people going, you turn it off, you go, this is too far-fetched. But this is reality, and that's the scary thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and yeah, if it works, well, you can be sure it will be implemented all over the world.
And I mean, they had Trudeau, who was bad. It looks like this new guy is worse.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I was too fast with the news because we first got to talk about getting support.
Yeah, basically we spend at least a day, probably more each, on this, and there's a lot of costs associated with it as well, but all software and different things that we're doing. And all we ask is that you buy us a cup of tea or a coffee once a month, $5. Even if you can't do $5, $1 a month, it would really help us. There's different ways to do it. There's a graphic for those watching on Spotify, BitChute, YouTube, and Rumble. You just scan it and it'll bring you to the 4 different things. You go to PayPal, Patreon, Ko-fi, or Buy Me a Coffee. Or if you're just listening, awakeningpodcast.org/support. And it really helps us do what we're doing. And we enjoy doing this. It's helping us ourselves, but it just, we can research even more if you're able to cover the costs. This is the UK Home Office launched a mass fatality capability resilience storage framework in February 2025. And I've seen a lot of this going around this week, so hence why I'm discussing it now, to ensure rapid scalability body storage in the event of a major incident that overwhelms local capacity. This is a standard emergency preparedness measure, not a sign of an imminent disaster, and is required under the UK Civil Contingencies Act. The key contract details, it's the name, as I just mentioned, UK Home Office, the total value up to 7.5 million sterling for the full framework. Individual lots, like lot 2 is awarded for around just under $500,000. The duration, 2 years initially, with options to extend up to 4 years. The supplier example, Fuse Marquee Limited. The date, the 14th of August 2025, award date. Provide up to 700 body storage spaces across 3 types of solutions. Soft shell, portable, weather resistance deployment in 24 hours, 100 bodies. Hard shell, ISO container style, refrigerator units, deployable in 3 days, 150 bodies. Temporary building, large independent refrigeration structure, deployed in 5 days, 450 bodies. The Civil Contingencies Act 2004 ensures national and local preparedness for mass fatality events. The procurement type is open procedure. suitable for small, medium enterprises with clear eligibility for compliance requirements and multiple lots. Suppliers can bid for one or more. What are they at? I mean, if something happens, there's enough hospitals and everything for this. This is a strange one. There's something they're planning. It's like we heard ages ago about the climate change. I actually have one of the episodes that mentioned about the climate lockdown. So people can go back and see that I talked about this. I'm not sure, was it with you with Aaron? But I covered that a long time ago. Same with this. There's something they're planning to do. And it's just, we have to be very careful. It is a strange one.
It's totally strange because, and when you talk about bodies, we talk about dead bodies. So it's really like a lot of people dying, and they're planning that the normal infrastructure is apparently not capable of handling it. So they got to add extra infrastructure. But since the COVID thing, or even let's look the years before that, when was the first time that happened? Was it the Spanish flu, or 100 years before that? Like, what are they planning for? And what is happening? Because under normal circumstances, there is nothing. So it must be man-made, and it must be something which is being planned. So I don't want to contribute to the fear-mongering, but this is more about being prepared. It's like you get this climate lockdown in Canada happening. You're not allowed to go in the forest anymore. You get here in the UK, where they're spending billions to getting rid of dead bodies, because that's what it is. Why are people doing that? And why are they doing it now? So, well, it's better good to know and to be prepared that they're doing these kind of things, because it's like I said, it's intentionally and is being planned. It's not like, oh, something happened, we didn't know, let's do that. No, this is planned action.
And if you look at previous events, I knew that the lockdown was all organized because they were selling, I don't know, was it in the billion? It was in the multi-millions PCR tests in 2017 and 2018. Why? Because they knew what they were doing. Same with midazolam, all these drugs they used to kill people, massive storage on that. They got all these things increased. So they prepare for these things. So you should watch all these dot connections, because there's something definitely going to happen. They don't do this just for the laugh of it and just like, oh, just in case. No, this is orchestrated. There's something planned.
Absolutely. So I promise to keep you updated on what's happening in Romania. I told you a couple of times. Just let me give a quick summary. There was a presidential election in December of last year. Then a man who won was named Georgescu, but the upper courts, or whatever, they annulled the results, and they ordered because they didn't want the guys. So new elections in April and May, and whatever. That man, Georgescu, tried to be a candidate, but he was not allowed to be a candidate. Again, went into all the legal stages, and all the time it was no, 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 no. So what the more pro-Romanian people, as opposed to the pro-EU, they sent a new candidate called George Simeon, and he was all ahead in all the polls and everywhere. And in the first round of these new presidential elections, April, May, he became first. But there had to be a second round between him and a pro-EU guy. And guess who won? The pro-EU guy. Totally not predictable. But now, one of the reasons where they said, no, the Georgescu man, he's not good, George Simeon is not good, because they're supported by the Russians. That was the reason. It's like, hey, and then first with Georgescu, it was already in December, January. It's like, oh no, the Russians paid his marketing campaign on Telegram and everywhere. Is like they're funding him so that he gets chosen. Okay, so this was just to catch you up. Now there has been a U.S. State Department report which exposes what many of us have suspected, that Europe lied about the Russian intervention to crush democratic victories. So they basically say there was no Russian intervention. They had nothing to do with it. So it's really, really, you could say, instead of I don't know the English saying. It is like you blame someone else for something you do yourself. It's
The same thing they did to Trump. It's Hillary was saying about Trump, and it was they did it. The exact same thing.
yeah, and that is what's happening. Is like the pro EU guys interfered, and the result is that there is now a pro EU president, which is totally not liked, by the way, but that is the case. So it's not the opposition guys who were totally supported by the Romanian people who are corrupt. It's the pro-EU folks who are corrupt. And it's now the U.S. State Department reporting this. So this is very interesting. And, well, I hope, I don't know whether this will be continued or how, but it shows what kind of nasty things are happening and that politics is totally rigged.
Yeah, absolutely. So, migrants are out of hotel. Epping Forest Council versus the UK government. The case involves Epping Forest District Council challenging the UK government's use of the Bell Hotel in Epping to house asylum seekers. The High Court ruled on August the 19th, 2025, just this week, granting an injunction that required the removal of asylum seekers from the hotel and barred its further use for this purpose by September the 12th of this year. This was the first successful legal challenge by a local authority against the government's hotel accommodation policy for asylum seekers. The reason for the case, the lack of consultation. The government placed asylum seekers in hotels without consulting local councils, undermining local governments and planning, strain on service, sudden increase in local population, strain, healthcare, education and social services, safeguarding duties. Councils argued hotels were unsuitable for vulnerable groups, potentially breaching child protection and welfare laws. Financial local authorities face unreimbursed costs for supporting migrants. The council sought to assert its statutory powers, ensure local input in such decisions. The legal argument, the council's position. The council claimed the government's use of hotels for long-term migrant accommodation was a material change of use under planning law, requiring permission that was not obtained. They also cited lack of consultation and safeguarding concerns. The government's position, they argued it was statutory powers to provide emergency accommodation and that hotel use was permitted under emergency provisions. The High Court found the government had acted outside its legal powers by demanding hotels without proper consultation or adhering to planning procedures. The use of hotels was deemed a material change of use under the Town and County Planning Act 1990, requiring planning permission. The court emphasised the need for local authority involvement and compliance with planning laws. And for local councils, the ruling empowers councils to challenge government decisions on migrant accommodation and may relieve them of operational and financial burdens. For the UK government, the decision disrupts the government's hotel accommodation strategy, requiring alternative solutions and closer collaboration with local authorities. It may prompt policy changes, legal assessments, and the case sets a precedent for greater local authority input, legal constraints on central government and could lead to increased litigation and pressure for systematic reform in migrant accommodation policy. When I told Arnold about this topic just prior to recording, he said, you should put that in the Good News Caravan. And in one sense, yes, because in Ireland, I'm sure there was no planning permission as well. And I think all the other countries, this could probably be applied everywhere else. The downside is they're also putting them into houses. And what they do, and I know in Ireland, they give them like a 5-year contract and they basically pay them guaranteed payment, guaranteed do all maintenance, pay for bills and everything. And because rental, if you've got rental properties, you're not guaranteed to be paid. Sometimes the house gets returned in a terrible condition. So for a landlord, this is ideal. They don't care who's in there. If the government are guaranteeing them money, what this I think will do, the governments will go, all right, we have to put them into houses. They'll create this thing that they'll pay extra because it's taxpayers' money. They'll pay what they want, which means that somebody that's renting will be kicked out, and your neighbor could be, all military-age men, a lot of them criminals, which we found and we've seen for this. But then you're trying to find a place and the prices will just go through the roof. So that's why I didn't put it into the Good News Caravan, because I think there will be a bad knock-on effect. If it was a case of ship them back home, all these criminals, great. That's not going to happen. Unfortunately, I don't think so.
Oh, wow, yeah. And I don't know particular about the UK, but in a lot of other countries, there's a housing crisis. For anyone with an average wage or young starting people, well, basically for everyone who's not rich, there's no housing availability. There's a problem with housing. And especially with, both with buying houses and renting houses, and this will just kind of multiply the problem with housing availability. So, as you just explained, so this will make the housing crisis, which is terrible already. I know in the Netherlands, it's like children are not going out of the home when they finish their education or vocation. They cannot get out of the house because there are not affordable houses for young people. Well, not even for elderly people who only have social benefit or a small pension. There are no houses available. They're just not there. So that problem is already now. If you add this to the problem, I think what we will see is that the local people will sleep on the street and the migrants will sleep in your house.
Absolutely. That's the way it's looking. I mean, there's a lot of that. I saw it in Ireland. Loads of Irish were putting out. So I suppose I have one for the good news, but I'll mention it now since we're continuing from this. I had an interview on the crypto podcast, and it was tokenization of real estate. And basically, this guy, what he's doing is they're working with builders, and people can buy tokens. So you can invest as much as, $50, $100, whatever, for fractional ownership. So, and they're giving returns up to 12%. That's allowing people get their foot on that ladder, because a lot of the times, if you have your money in the bank, with inflation, you're actually losing your money. So people are working hard, trying to save a bit of money, and the prices are going through the roof, and your savings are going down in value. So this is a way that can actually help society. So he's doing it in the UK in housing projects, not big high-rise buildings, but their plan is to actually expand. And I just got a good feeling from the guy. It looks right. I'll keep my eye on it, but it's worth checking out. It's episode 107 on the Crypto Podcast.
So there's something happening in Venezuela. This is a picture of their president Maduro, and he announced last Monday that he will deploy 4.5 million armed militia members across the country in response to what he called escalating threats from the United States. And the massive mobilization comes as the Trump administration has doubled the bounty for Maduro's arrest to $50 million. So Trump wants that guy being arrested, and if you do, you get $50 million. and he deployed, saying 2 U.S. Navy destroyers, so big ships, to Caribbean waters near Venezuela as part of, they call it anti-cartel operations. So this is what's happening right now. These U.S. warships are going there. They put a bounty on his head, and he says, I'm going to deploy 4.5 million people. That doesn't look good. And it might be under the umbrella of the cartel and everything around that. That might even be true, because the cartels in all of the countries from Mexico up to the US have a lot of power. But at the same time, Trump has said many times that he wants to expand the American territory from the north in Greenland to Canada, but also to the south, to the Panama Canal, and now obviously even going further south to Venezuela. So it's like he wants to, well, build one big American empire, and apparently this guy is in the way. So now he has sent warships, but these guys are not accepting things like, "Ooh, okay, US, we're doing it." He said, "I got 4.5 million people." Boom. So this is happening this week.
Yeah. So, and do you know what the population is? Because when I saw like over 4 million, I was like, what? They can have armed men, 4 million?
Well, my guess is it's a huge country, but not too many people. So it's
That's a high percentage of the population.
so it doesn't look good. So let's move into AI, artificial intelligence, for people who don't like abbreviations. Well, don't ask me what GPT stands for, but we move into GPT-5 medical reasoning. But before we go there, let me ask you to have a look at brain fitness, especially in these times, and especially with the use of AI and everything else. If you're not using your brain skills, you're losing them. And there's a lot of things which have been proven, which are shared on this show as well, is that by using AI a lot, you will lose your capability. But it's also, like we shared, which we just shared on the news topic, we shared a lot of things which are happening in the world, and you just might as well, that doesn't impact me. But what if in 2 or 3 months there's a climate lockdown all over the world? What if they are spreading some kind of poison and they need a lot of bodies in these fatality tents? So you need a clear brain to deal with this and to be prepared with it, and to respond to it in a good way. That's why you need to work on upgrading your brain. That's what I do with braingym.fitness. That's our website. I have masterclasses, which are workshops to around specific topics like relationship, like curiosity, like your uniqueness. I got a training program to help you move from fitting into flying out. And a new book is out about the adventures of Dr. Alfred Moore, about a traditional doctor who becomes a social entrepreneur. So click on the QR code here, and otherwise go to braingym.fitness for upgrading your brain.
And just, I mean, I haven't said it before, but I read out about 100 books a year, and I thoroughly enjoy that book. So if you like reading, it's a very nice read.
We mentioned recently that there was an introduction of GPT-5. Well, there are letters. Well, in this case, I don't know, but he had 4 and an O, and I don't know all these things. But it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is the most latest one. We're talking about they tested it on medical reasoning as a benchmark, and they compared it with GPT-4 and human medical professionals. That's why you see here a picture like a AI robot doctor kind of thing. But what I want to share is that so they had it done, tested around diagnostic, multimodal tasks, clinical questions, reasoning, everything else. And what the outcome is that the system, so GPT-5, exceeded pre-licensed medical professionals by 24%. On reasoning and 29% on understanding and expert level tests. That's incredible. It's between a quarter and a third. The AI was better than humans, because that is in essence what we're talking about. So the GPT-5 showed sophisticated diagnostic abilities as well on complex cases, correctly IDing rare conditions like Boerhaave syndrome from lab values and CT scans. So diagnosing, tests, everything else, the AI is better than humans. That's the summary which we can say. This article says we're approaching a point where physicians not using AI in clinical settings could be regarded as malpractice. Plus, the gap is only heading in one direction as intelligence gets. So there's this huge gap between what this technology is capable of and what humans are capable of. Combined with what I mentioned last week about that survey in the Polish medical environment where they compared the testing availabilities of doctors and the AI, and it showed that the de-skilling is like people were losing their abilities. So I think we're rapidly moving into an area where your doctor will be totally replaced by AI. This is what's happened.
Well, that's one thing is,
And it's not only that the AI is a little bit better, it's between a quarter and a third.
AI isn't taking kickbacks, which a lot of doctors are. So that's what, and even like I don't go to a hospital, so I don't take medications. But if there is something that comes up, I go into AI, give the exact details, and you get so much information. And there's times you go into a doctor and he just writes out a prescription for antibiotics. Most of them don't give a shit about you. So I think you're in safer hands. There's times there's advantages to it, and this will be one of them.
Yeah, and it's sad to mention this example what you just said, because it kind of now shows is that we did that to ourselves. So that soon, I think, a study at the university, medicine, and well, will become totally obsolete. And a lot of doctors will lose their job because they will do what Roy just explained. Now you might say, oh, that's a nasty thing about the AI. Yeah, but if you look at the behavior of doctors, like Roy just said, you did it yourself. You did it yourself by becoming basically chemical pushers rather than caring about your holistic health. So I think there will still be an opportunity for humans if you focus on holistic health, so including not only your physical health, but your mental, emotional, spiritual health. That's where I still see opportunities, and I don't see AI doing that too fast. Brain health. And so it's like all of these things, I think if you're studying now at university, I think you can basically stop with it and move in this direction rather than continue doing this, because that's what people will be doing. Is like people will check with the chat GPT or other LLMs, and then they know what they want, and then, well, if they need medicine, most of the time you don't, by the way, but like they can order the stuff directly, and it like the whole model is gone. So,
And
again, this is not the future. This is now.
and there's obviously going to be robots as well in this for surgery and everything, because they'll be a lot better. And what I would like to see is I'd like to see the robots doing their dancing, as all these people that were doing their dancing during the lockdown, taking the piss, because I know of lots of people that were murdered in hospitals. And as they're being escorted out, losing their jobs, the ones that are abusing people, let the robots do the dancing. And I think the people will clap at that one.
Absolutely. So that's why I say you take it on yourself. It's the way the medical establishment has been so corrupt and so not caring about people. I'm not talking about nurses. A lot of nurses are really quite, but a lot of doctors are just totally corrupt. That you now lose your job, it's like, hey, it's your own fault.
So, Mangle, Mangle, is a new reasoning language from Google. It's like a smarter version of SQL, which is structured query language, or Prolog, which is programming in logic. Instead of writing lots of code, you write rules, and it figures out the answers for you. Built in Go, open source, and meant to help people make sense of scattered data, files, APIs, databases. What it does, it lets you connect and reason over messy data from different places, can trace relationships like software supply chains or family trees, can spot risks, unpatched software vulnerabilities, and good for knowledge graphs, facts, and connections. If the pros, easier to express complex logic without writing tons of code, works across many data sources in one framework, open source and lightweight. You can plug it into Go apps, great for security analysis and data audits. And then the cons, not beginner friendly. Logic programming takes getting used to. Still new, smaller community and fewer tools. Go only for now. So not as friendly if you use Python, JS, and can lose some predictability. Might not always finish or scale perfectly. I mean, I've seen videos before of Google even with the phones and everything, and even when the phones were on pilot mode and Wi-Fi turned off, they were tracking everything, every single thing that you're doing. So a lot of things with AI and everything, people are thinking, oh, this is great, this is great. Yeah, there's a lot of things when it's put to good use, but Google ain't the good boys, and they're gathering all our information. So that's the one that I would be concerned about.
Yeah, and there's now, I think this week there was a new Google Pixel phone introduced, which has got something like 7-8 different AI functionalities built into it. So if you're into Google Android phones, it's like there's no way of escaping it.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of people getting their phones hacked. So Android, there's a lot of bugs and stuff like that that are going in. So just to be aware of that as well. So if you have an Android phone, I'm hearing a lot of scamming and stuff that they go and track, make changes and check your bank account and everything. So just be aware.
AI chatbots trick users into sharing 12 times more personal data. On the show, we've been talking about that people are using AI chatbots as friends, for therapy, for romantic relationships. I'm not even talking about other relationships. And how, well, that you have to be careful around that. But now it's like there have been 2 groundbreaking studies have exposed how AI chatbots and browser assistants are collecting and sharing personal data at unprecedented scales, raising urgent questions about user privacy and regulatory oversight in the rapidly expanding AI system. So what they found is that malicious AI chatbots can manipulate users into revealing up to 12 times more personal information than they would normally share. So it's basically like the AI chatbot is being nice and kind, and then you're talking with them. It's like, by the way, when's your birthday? Oh, nice. It's like all of these things. Like it's just it tricks you by being nice and kind. And if someone is nice and kind and open to you, you're willing to share more stuff. That's how they manipulate you. This is what's happening. This is what Roy just said, is like, beware of scammers and they can go to your bank account, whatever. These people are using chatbots. Like, they give all the data to the thing. It's like, hey, and people are talking now about these AI agents. Oh, the AI agent can book my meetings, can book my events, can book my stuff. Yeah, but in order to do so, it knows where you are. Maybe it's got even access to your bank account. It's got access to this thing. Yeah, they can do all the stuff, but they all of a sudden you can also 3 weeks like, oh, everything's gone. I didn't know that. Yeah, so, and it's like they sound like nice. And it's like a lot of people, I think they have these AI chatbot are their best friends. Well, with best friends, you can share your stuff, right? But it's a trick. And it's now this research, and again, it's not just me saying, it's research from King's College in London and another place where they say it's like, no, they're just after your data.
Good news, Caroline.
So let's move, before we go into StackBurger.
So we've got virtual assistants. So if you're looking to have a virtual assistant, and it can actually be not just hourly basis, because sometimes you do that, but more packages, and you can do social media, do all the stuff. I mean, I've got people doing the shorts and blasting out, and I'm getting about 250,000 views with all my podcasts. So it definitely does help. And if you want to set up websites and things like that and market at very competitive prices, scan the QR code or go to va.world.
StackBurger, it's, well, you see here a picture, is a burger restaurant in a small community in northern Ontario in Canada. All of a sudden, they received an order for $439.20 for pickup. That is for a small town, a small burger in, well, I would say the middle of nowhere, is a lot of money. Yeah, so $439. So they're like, wow, this is a big order. So, but because they make all their meals from scratch, it was a huge effort. And when the pickup time came, nobody showed up. So they realized it was a prank. And someone had just called up the phone and said, hey, I want to have, I don't know, 200 burgers and do all this stuff. So they had prepared it fresh and they had done all the work, but nobody would pick up and nobody would pay. So after all that effort, the staff was disheartened and demoralized. Then the owner, a man called Kevin Siret, whose philosophy is give what you can, nice philosophy, he chose to donate the food to a place called Pauline's Place. Also a nice place, because what does Pauline Place do? It's a non-profit providing short-term housing for youth, women, and families experiencing a housing crisis. Well, if you add that, what we said in the beginning about what's happening in the UK and everywhere, and it's a huge problem. It's like you divorce or you have problems or there was been violence, whatever. You need a short-term housing thing. Okay, but I'm deviating, but I think if such a place exists, it's really beautiful. It's really nice. So he said, let's donate the food because we already prepared the burgers, so let's give it to Pauline's place. And of course, they're very happy about it because all these places, they lack money, and all of a sudden they get, some nice burgers to everybody, and they thought it was great. That's not the end of the story. This story got published online, and then sometime later, an individual who had asked to remain anonymous walked into the restaurant and insisted on paying the outstanding bill of the prank order. So I think the two beautiful acts in one is like, one was a prank, which is a shitty prank because it's has a negative impact on other people. So that's not a good prank. But first, what the owner of the restaurant said, hey, I'm going to give it to this place of people who really urgently need some housing, which is a nice act. And then someone else came later in and said, I want to pay for this. So a beautiful example of a small place in Canada, whatever, which shows there are still good people around and there are still people with a good heart.
And most people, when that happened, they would see red, but because his name was See Red, he did the right thing. So, yeah, fair dues to him.
Yeah.
Well, this is an interesting one. A recent study from the University of Exeter found that immersive virtual reality experiences, especially 360-degree footage of Oregon waterfalls, can provide pain relief that reveals or surpasses traditional painkillers. This research points to VR as a promising non-drug option for pain management, especially for those unable to access real natural environments due to health or mobility issues. It's led by Dr. Sam Hughes, Senior Lecturer in Pain Neuroscience. It was 29 healthy volunteers. The participants received mild electric shocks to the forearm and were exposed to 3 conditions: still images of nature, a 2D video of the same scene, and a 45-minute immersive VR session in Oregon waterfalls. Pain sensitivity was measured throughout, and fMRI scans tracked brain activity. The key findings: immersive VR significantly reduced pain sensations from the electric shocks, while electric blasts, with effects lasting through the 45-minute session, comparative effectiveness, VR was twice as effective as 2D video and sound, according to the participants' feedback. Greater feeling of presence in the VR environment correlated with stronger pain relief. The fMRI scans show that participants with stronger connectivity in pain-modulating brain regions experience less pain. The study suggested VR nature scenes can alter pain signal transmissions in the brain and spinal cord, offering potential benefits for chronic pain sufferers. The VR distracts and engages multiple senses, reducing pain perception by diverting attention, consistent with gate control theory of pain. It also modulates brain activity in pain processing regions, similar to opioid analgesics, but without the risks. Meta-analysis confirmed VR's effectiveness to acute pain, with more moderate effects for chronic pain. Immersive and interactive VR are more effective. Some users may experience simulator sickness, and barriers like cost and accessibility remain. More research is needed and on long-term efficiency and diverse populations. I mean, when I saw that, I was thinking of you, because I mean, when you had an accident, you were in hospital, and also for like the elderly people that can't get out of the house. I mean, this is a brilliant thing that can help with pain. So, I mean, the fact that you were in hospital for 9 weeks, and like, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yes, and I won't bother the listeners too much, but when I kind of saw, when I was lying in the hospital bed, and at the end there was on the wall a whiteboard. On the whiteboard, the nurses had put, a table like a spreadsheet table, is like 4 times per day, 4 different stuff of painkillers they would give to me. So I would get every day 16 different painkillers, among which morphine and oxycodone. Those are 2 of the most highly addictive stuff. So I told them when I saw that after a few days, and I'm like, this is not good. And I said, I want to get rid of these painkillers because I know they're addictive and I don't want to get out of this hospital as an addict. I tell you, they didn't care. They didn't care at all. They thought I just was a stupid guy. And I insisted to do it. I said, I will only take a few paracetamol. Oh, okay. And when I take it, I will throw them away. But I had pain for 3 years. If I would have had this VR solution, I would have been more than happy to use it. So, and I know there are a lot of people, for me, it was acute pain. I know there are millions of people with chronic pain. And it's like, and they get these medicine, which get all these, like I said, you become addicted. They get all these nasty side effects and everything else. Like if you have something which works on frequencies, and we are basically a frequency. So like if you treat it like that, I think it's a very good thing. The Entertainer. Have you heard about this shop, Roy, or not?
No.
Well, neither had I, but apparently in the UK, it has more than 160 stores and 1,000 concessions. So, well, kind of 1,200 things. So apparently in the UK, it's the largest toy shop in the UK, I think. And it was founded by a guy called Cary Grant, and he's stepping down. What usually happens, especially for the ads or whatever, like they sell the stuff and a big company comes in or whatever. But he transferred 100% of the ownership of the family-owned business to an employee trust. And that means that staff will get a share of the profits and have a voice in how the firm is run. So the owner said this act should future-proof our brands, root jobs in local communities, and inject wealth into regional economies. And he said, I want my vision to continue where we focus on children in community through creating memories, inspiring wonder, and delivering outstanding service. So he is giving the ownership of the stuff to the employees. And I love employee-owned businesses. It's proven they perform much better than stock exchange thing because, well, you're an employee, you're a co-owner. So it's like, yeah, it's partly from you. So that changes your behavior. And this is what this guy, Cary Grant from The Entertainer, is doing. And he's put it all in an employee trust. So I think it's an example worth following.
And I'm reading a book at the moment, and it's on about, when people kind of retire, not everyone sells it. Some people think it's so much hassle. And it was even saying that sometimes they want the employees to take it and they don't want it. So seeing this, I mean, you think someone would bite someone's hand off when they're being offered, a percentage of a company or to get involved in it. And some people don't want the hassle. So the way that he's done it in a trust ring fencing it and everything. It's just a good way of giving back to those that have actually helped him make his wealth.
Absolutely. Moving into health. Illinois' mandatory mental health screening. I'm not making this up, but it could be that Illinois, which is a state in the U.S., has become the first state to mandate annual mental health screening for every student from 3rd grade through high school. starting in 2027, kids will be required to fill out forms asking them to evaluate their own psychological state, often with parents excluded from the process. So they're gonna, third grade apparently is from 8-year-old to self-diagnose their mental health. So what they're doing is they're training children to scan themselves for pathology every single year. That looks very dystopian, and it's like, yeah, and introduces concept to them like suicidality and trauma and everything around it. I think it's a terrible initiative, because what is already happening, and I'm not making this up. I've spoken to quite a lot of parents about this. Is like on TikTok, they see something like, "Are you feeling this? Are you feeling that?" Like, oh, I also have that. Oh, I might be depressed. And then they ask their parents, like, "Can I get some medicine because I'm depressed?" Or fill in the blanks, stressed, I cannot focus, give me some medicine, whatever. So this is really medicalizing, pathologizing children. And because it's done every year, and you know that when you fill out certain things, I'm sure you know, well, you get attention, you get medicine, you get stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, they're treated differently. This is really, really a attempt to further increase. I call the whole mental illness industry is a straitjacket in my terms. Is like, because it's totally not true. There's nothing wrong with your brain, and they're not promoting it. So that from you're 8 years old, they want to put you in this system, because that's the reason. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. So it's an ugly initiative, and I think people should not cooperate on this.
It's just get them on tablets for life. You can be sure that the doctors that are part of this, yeah, you get a bonus for every person that you diagnose with ADHD or whatever it is, depression. Yeah, get them on a tablet for life, which leads to no more side effects. Those that are worried about this, mandatory doesn't mean you have to do it. Look up that word. You do not have to do it. They have no control over you. So don't think that they can go to your child and everything and have the conversations with your kid, because a lot of the time they do trickery. They come in, they do things. Your kid should contact you immediately the minute they're trying these different things.
Yeah, and that is doing at school. So it's like your parents are at home or at work, and your kid is like, "Oh, can you fill out this thing?" It's really incredible. This is happening in Illinois. I think in this where Chicago is. It's huge. It's huge.
So, Aspartame, I mean, I've been aware of this for years, but I'm kind of shocked so many times when I see people kind of reaching for the Diet Coke and everything. So that's why Hensley decided, let's kind of talk about it today. Aspartame is an artificial low-calorie sweetener, about 200 times sweeter than sugar. It's made of 2 amino acids and a small amount of methanol. It's used as a to sweeten food and drinks without adding the calories of sugar. How it got approved. In 1965, discovered accidentally by chemist James Schattler at G.D. Searle and Company. In 1974, the US FDA, who I do not think are any bit decent, because every time someone's working for the FDA, they're working for Pfizer's or working for somebody else. And I've seen loads of natural companies being shut down by him, gave initial approval, but it was challenged due to safety concerns. In 1981, after political and corporate influence, notably Donald Rumsfeld, so those that have heard about him know, he ain't a good guy, then CEO of Searle, pushed for reapproval, the FDA gave full support. Worldwide, since then, regulatory bodies like the EFSA for Europe, GECFA, the WHO/FAO, and others have repeatedly reviewed and approved it, though controversy persists. Health concerns and dangers. Studies and reviews have produced mixed results. Some findings include phenethylamine, dangerous for people with PKU. Methanol can be can form formaldehyde in the body, though in small amounts compared to fruit alcohol. Aspartic acid in excess may act as a excitatory agent. Potential risks suggested in studies: headaches, dizziness, and mood changes in sensitive individuals. Possible links to cancers in animal studies, though large human studies have not confirmed strong evidence. And gut microbiome disruption. Increased cravings for sweets, appetite regulatory issues. In 2023, the WHO classified aspartame as possible carcinogenic to humans, group 2B, but still stated safety daily intakes of the 40 milligrams per kg. Other names of aspartame, because these scumbags use trickery, and then you might go, I'm making sure I'm not getting it with aspartame. So and neurosweet, and I remember before researching this, there's lots more, but these are kind of main ones they're using. Neurosweet equal sugar twin, amino sweet, Canderel, Cinderel, and E951. A lot of people, you'll see the E's and the things and they don't think much of it. Go away and research when you see E on ingredients because they're deadly. Products commonly containing aspartame, diet sodas like Diet Coke and Pepsi masks. So you see a lot of people, especially obese people, oh, I'll have a Pepsi mask or I'll have a Diet Coke, and you're going, they're actually worse for you. Apparently, they make you fatter. So people think they're going to lose weight by taking it. Nah, that's not. Sugar-free gum. So I've seen that all the time. And most chewing gum has aspartame. Sugar-free candies. Flavored water. So this is one that it drives me crazy. You see bottled water in shops, and it's like got all these little kids and nice little colored pictures and everything. So the parent gets that for the child. And they're sweetened. Sometimes it's with sugar. It's like 10% of is sugar, and other times it's with that. So you're giving your child toxin. So stop doing that. Drink mixes, like when you're like these syrups and stuff like that, low calorie yogurts, protein shakes, meal replacement, pharmaceutical and vitamins, chewable, sugar free. What I want to say is, I read a book. I have it there, The Wheel of Health by Dr. Wrench, and it was written in the 1930s. And the guy, it was basically, he tested food and stuff like that, and rats, when they were given all toxic food and stuff like that, did all the same issues we see today when they were given really good quality food. No reproductive issues, no eczema, no tumors, no nothing. They were perfect. And with this, rats were getting cancer. There's a real correlation between the organs and everything, because a rat of 2 years is equivalent to a human of 50. So anytime I see tests with animals, why are they doing the tests on the animals if they're not going to take heed them? So just look at that. Look at the different ones that are there, all the different ingredients. Go into a search on other names that they use. There's apps now that you can get on your food, on your phone, and you can actually scan food as you're in the supermarket, and you can have kind of warning labels that will tell you, yeah, it contains that. So straight away, just put it back. And even get your children involved and tell them, hey, these are toxic. So your child knows, can I get this? Let's scan it and see. Nope, and put it away. So it is deadly. So be careful.
Here's something healthy. Nuts. And here on this picture, you can see various nuts. Almonds, good for your brain. Walnuts are famously good for your brain. Why? I think there's no coincidence. Look at the shape of a walnut. It's exactly the same shape as your brain. So they're absolutely good for your brain function, also for your memory, for your mood. Eat cashews, hazelnuts for skin health, Brazil nuts for thyroid function, and pistachios for your heart health. So instead of drinking your Diet Coke and a hamburger from McDonald's, eat a couple of these nuts. If you eat a handful or the 2 handful of a combination of this, you're not hungry anymore. And it's totally healthy, and it improves a lot of functioning of your body. So it's available, and well, nuts are not cheap. But if you have a McDonald's menu, well, I think you can eat a week worth of nuts if compared with the same price. Yeah.
And actually, you mentioned a few times about different nuts soaking it in water. So you may just touch on that as well. Why people would soak some.
Yeah, especially about these nuts like almonds. If you have a raw almond, it's very hard. Walnuts, they're not so hard, but a little bit. It is like if you soak them a night in water, your body can much more easily digest it and and absorb the good ingredients in the nuts. So it's quite simple. Like let's take raw almonds, and you should take raw almonds, not ones which are sweetened or salted. I saw yesterday somewhere like they put caramel flavored almonds. Don't do that. That's not healthy. It's like take raw almonds, put them before you go to sleep, put them in some water, and then the next morning put them for your breakfast or just munch on them while you're working. Very, very good. And your body is much better in digesting it.
And all these almonds that you said, doing the caramel and all that. That's like putting a lettuce around your Big Mac and eating it, thinking now it's healthy. I said, you just reduced it. You're not getting any benefit when you're putting all them toxins on it.
So, to the inspiration topic, something which I find quite interesting, which I just saw, is called predicting Eureka. We all know the famous Eureka, and I don't know whether it's true, like the Greek guy in a bathtub is like, oh, I know, I can see it. Like, I get an idea. Yeah. That's why Eureka, and I still know from my Greek name, it means I have found it. And so it's just Greek. So it's not just some kind of a slogan. No, it's just Greek. Yeah. And what scientists have discovered, there was a test which they done on a mathematical competition. So people who were very high level mathematics competition. There was a contest, and very, very smart boys and girls doing that. And they have discovered that there is a subtle behavioral change that occurs minutes before mathematicians experience an eureka moment, offering unprecedented insight into the mechanics of human creativity and problem solving. So we think about this eureka moment is like, it's there, yeah. So, and a lot of time we think it comes from outside of ourselves. We're not living. It's like, I know. It's a great feeling, by the way, and I get it a few times each week, and I love this feeling. But apparently, your body shows signs that something is about to emerge. So, whether it's a combination between your body and your behavior already starting to prepare for that, maybe to receive it, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who get eureka moment, but their body has been so destroyed by aspartame and other shit that you cannot receive it. You cannot get these ideas because, well, if your antenna is ruined, you don't get these things. But now they found out and they did the study. Why am I sharing this with the inspiration? Is like, maybe we can learn now, and it's a start of a process. Is like, how does creativity work? How do breakthroughs work? How do inventions work? So, and I think it's crucial that we learn to recognize these behaviors and feelings, because then we can act upon it. So, I think it means a lot for problem solving and creativity.
And most people go, oh, I got to download from an external source.
So this is something which, I don't think it will happen very fast, but because now people will start to figure out what is happening and what's going on. But I'm pretty sure that basically, in essence, our brains are receivers and transmitters. So there's something happening before you can receive it.
So this is kind of, I'm encouraging people to start a podcast and especially listen to podcasts because, we're all aware, like the CNNs, the BBCs and all this, RTEs in Ireland, regurgitate lies, all propaganda. Like it's been shown in Ireland, all the newspapers and everything, they've been paid by the government. So, and that happens everywhere. They're just told what to do. So podcasts are a great way of learning information. And I mean, I learned about MK Ultra from a podcast years ago. I was like, and then I done further research, like with the poison jab. It was from me interviewing people and learning about people that were against that made me kind of realize how dangerous these were. So this is before the pandemic. So there was people talking about that anyway, because they were kind of seeing autism rates going through. But I learned so much. I got more people, then I got books and so many different things that I've learned from shows. So I listened to a lot of different podcasts. But what I would encourage, some people, they have a gift. And even if you're retired or whatever, and you have a gift and you're like, there's no point in complaining about what's going on in the world. It's not, all you're doing is kind of hurting your own selves. But if you've got a skill set that will help humanity, just create a show. It is easy. And even if you don't have the financial means, some people can do it on a phone, but you have a laptop or whatever, you can learn. There's a lot of free resources out there. Obviously, I'm doing that. I'm a coach and that, but that's not what this is about. This is, you can set it up easy. You don't have to be technical. I've got a mic, you just plug it in a USB. It's very easy to upload to things, and it goes to all the different platforms. But if you want to see change in the world and you've got something to share, I encourage you to actually create a show as well. But even if you don't want to, start listening to shows and when you find good information, obviously not just ours. I mean, it helps when you share our one, but when you hear a show, like Arnold's often sharing shows with me that I would never have heard about, and vice versa. And we've got a few other circles of friends that do that as well. And that's how we actually get creative and improve our knowledge base. But it's also enjoyable as well. And you could double dip. You can be ironing and you can be listening to a podcast and be taking a walk. There's a load of things you can be doing. Trying to, like, instead of just listening to the news, like every country, sometimes on the 30 minutes or on the hour, you've got 5 minutes of negativity, of news. Oh, this person crashed and died. This is this. They never have 5 minutes of something that's going to uplift you. It's always doom and gloom. So better to have, you can listen to music, but if you're listening to music on the radio, when that comes on, it's very hard that you're reaching, well, I do, and I reach for the button, but you can also listen to a podcast. So if you're on a school run or a work run, listen to a podcast. And you can listen to health, you can even listen to comedy ones, but it just lifts your spirits. So I encourage everyone to at least listening to more podcasts, but also think about starting one.
I love what you just said, Roy, about retired people, elderly people who have something to share with the world. They get a unique experience. They get maybe a special gift which is not recognized, or they get some really cool ideas and nobody wants to listen to that old person. I really love what you just said. And I think it's really important that by setting up their own podcast, they can share with the world what might be good and helping people. Because, and Roy and I are discussing it, many people, if not all people, are suffering to a certain level. So if you have an idea or a suggestion where you can alleviate the suffering, or you get really cool ideas to make a food taste sweet without aspartame or whatever, it's like, I think there are millions of these people all around the world. But people ignore them, didn't listen to them, boycotted them, whatever, or they're just like, they have this valuable thing and nobody cares about it. It's like, start your show. Or become a guest on the show and you can share it with the world. I love that idea.
And even if you're young and you're thinking, oh, I don't have anything to bring, you can go into the old folks' home, talk to the people there, sit down with them, get their life stories, get all the things that they saw was working before and everything, and share it. So you have a person in each little town that can be doing that.
Absolutely. And that will expand your view. That's why we're calling this another perspective. We hope that we take away your blinkers. We all had blinkers, and it's like opening it up to the world. And I came across this quote, which is from a on YouTube. It's a very nice thing. It's called 10 Japanese quotes that will change how you see life. It's really beautifully done, really nice quote. So if you type that in on YouTube, you will find it. But particularly, I love this quote, which is in line what Roy and I are doing with another perspective. And it says, you can't talk about the ocean with the frog in the well because it only knows a hole. I'm experiencing that almost daily with people who are living in their small bubble, in this case, in the small hole. And when you tell them what's happening outside of that hole in the ocean, they think you're batshit crazy. But this quote shows is like, yeah, well, we are not crazy. You're crazy because you don't see that we're a hole in a big ocean. And I think this is a beautiful quote to conclude that.
As always, thoroughly enjoyed it, Arnold. And for the listeners, just all the different things we said, you just scan the QR code there. That's there. You'll find about the Brain Gym, the VA, and my podcast coaching, as well as the 6 podcasts. So there's also the crypto one that I mentioned. And if there's anybody that's writing comments, we'll make sure we go in on the live. Until next week, take care.